Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of the Saqqara Bird, Egypt's ancient aircraft. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In 1898, an object was discovered in a tomb at Saqqara, Egypt, and catalogued as a wooden bird figurine dating to approximately 200 BC. It was stored in the Cairo Museum, largely forgotten, for 71 years. Then in 1969, Egyptologist Dr. Khalil Messiha was examining objects in the miscellaneous section of the museum's storage when he noticed something that stopped him cold. The object had wings unlike any bird, horizontal, flat, and swept back at an angle more consistent with an aircraft than with any known bird's anatomy. Its body was streamlined. It had a distinctive upright vertical tail fin, an anatomical feature found in no bird anywhere in the natural world. Messiha, who was also an aviation enthusiast, immediately recognized what he was seeing. He announced that the Saqqara object was not a bird figurine at all but a scale model of an aircraft, specifically a glider. He presented his findings to the Egyptian Ministry of Culture, and the object was transferred to a special display case labeled Ancient Model Airplane. The debate has continued ever since. This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the wider world of ancient technological anomalies, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. Ancient technical knowledge is remarkably vulnerable. It lives in the hands of craftsmen, in the minds of engineers, in the institutional memory of workshops and guilds. When a civilization collapses through invasion, plague, climate change, or internal conflict, that knowledge can vanish within a single generation. There is no guarantee that what is written down will be preserved, and much ancient knowledge was never written down at all. It was transmitted orally, apprentice to master, in a chain that a single catastrophe could permanently sever. This vulnerability helps explain what might otherwise seem impossible, that the ancient world possessed capabilities we did not recover for centuries or millennia. The Romans knew how to make self-healing concrete by mixing volcanic ash with seawater. When the empire fell, the recipe was forgotten. Medieval European builders worked with inferior materials for over 1,000 years before the technique was rediscovered through analysis of surviving Roman structures. The knowledge did not disappear because it was suppressed or hidden. It simply died with the people who held it. Apply this principle more broadly, and the anomalies of the ancient world become less mysterious, not in the sense of being explained, but in the sense of being plausible. If Rome could lose a concrete formula for a millennium, what else might have been lost? What might advanced cultures in earlier epochs have discovered and then lost, leaving only fragmentary traces, a strange artifact here, a suggestive diagram there, that later generations would struggle to interpret? This is the question at the heart of every anomalous discovery from the ancient world. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the Saqqara Bird, Egypt's ancient aircraft, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The Saqqara bird is carved from sycamore wood and is approximately 14 centimeters long, with a wingspan of approximately 18 centimeters and a weight of 12 grams. It is dated to approximately 200 BC based on its style and associated tomb material, placing it in the Ptolemaic period of Egyptian history. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered the object's aerodynamic properties have been tested by multiple researchers. Simon Sanderson from the University of Liverpool conducted aerodynamic analysis in 2006 and reported that the shape generates lift at specific angles of attack and that it could function as a glider if fitted with a horizontal tail surface, which would be required for stable flight, but is absent from the current artifact. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. The distinctive upright vertical tail fin is the most anomalous feature. No bird has this anatomy, but most fixed-wing aircraft do. Proponents argue this is evidence of aerodynamic knowledge. Critics argue it is simply a stylistic element or a broken horizontal tail surface that has been misidentified. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation, but the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, several other anomalous model-like objects have been claimed as ancient aircraft in different cultures, including the Columbian gold figurines of the pre-Columbian period that appear to resemble fighter jets with delta wings and vertical stabilizers. Replica models of these Columbian figurines have been built and reportedly flown successfully. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of mainstream Egyptologists classify the Saqqara bird as a votive or ceremony. An object in the form of a bird, possibly a falcon sacred to the god Horus. Bird figurines are common in Egyptian funerary contexts, and the shape discrepancies from actual bird anatomy can be explained as stylized rather than aerodynamically intentional. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding. No text of any kind in the Egyptian record refers to flying machines, powered or unpowered. No infrastructure consistent with aviation, runways, hangars, workshops, has been identified at any Egyptian site. The Saqqara bird, if it is an aircraft model, would exist entirely without any supporting cultural context. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Saqqara Bird, Egypt's ancient aircraft. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that the Saqqara bird is a votive or decorative object in the stylized form of a bird, probably a falcon, whose non-avian features are the result of artistic convention rather than aerodynamic knowledge. This is the mainstream Egyptological position and is consistent with a large number of bird figurines from the same period. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that the Saqqara bird is a model of an ancient glider, either functional in its own right or representing knowledge of aerodynamic principles developed through observation of soaring birds and experimentation with carved wooden models. Ancient Egyptians were sophisticated empiricists in other domains and could have discovered basic gliding principles through systematic observation. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the Saqqara bird represents the kind of sophisticated toy or demonstration model that is characteristic of Greek and Ptolemaic era engineering culture, whose mechanical achievements, including steam-powered devices, automatic doors, and the Antikythera mechanism, confirm an interest in practical mechanical principles that could have extended to unpowered flight. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Saqqara bird, Egypt's ancient aircraft, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes aerodynamic analysis by Sanderson in 2006 confirmed that the Saqqara bird generates lift at specific angles of attack and that its shape is more aerodynamically efficient. Nth would be required for a purely decorative bird figurine, but the absent horizontal tail surface means it could not fly stably without modification. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented. Comparison with other Ptolemaic-era wooden bird figurines shows that most bird-shaped funerary objects of the period have anatomically accurate horizontal tail surfaces, and less aerodynamically shaped bodies, making the Saqqara bird's specific features somewhat anomalous even within its own cultural tradition. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed the discovery context, a tomb at Saqqara among objects associated with funerary ritual, provides circumstantial support for the conventional interpretation as a votive object, but does not rule out an aerodynamic function, since models and tools were routinely placed in Egyptian tombs. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Saqqara bird, Egypt's ancient aircraft. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The Saqqara bird remains one of the more genuinely ambiguous objects in the debate over ancient anomalies. Unlike some claimed ancient technology, the aerodynamic properties are at least partially supported by analysis. But the absence of any supporting cultural context, no texts, no infrastructure, no other similar objects from the same period, makes the aircraft interpretation very difficult to sustain. It is possible that the Saqqara bird is exactly what the mainstream says it is, shaped in a way that happens to be aerodynamically functional without that function being intentional. Or it is possible that ancient Egyptians were experimenting with unpowered flight. The honest answer is that we cannot be certain either way. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis. And the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Saqqara bird, Egypt's ancient aircraft, from the historical record through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Saqqara bird ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle, it is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, We hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.